All right, hello, I'm Michael. This is Brittany, part of 51 Blocks. We still don't really have a show name. We need to come up with that. We're going to continue to just continue to do these and not let that stop us, right? Like with the whole mindset of the 80-20, get it 80% right and get it out the door. Well, that's this right here, as you can see. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the world we're in. Right now, it's April 5th, 2020, and it's COVID-19 is very prevalent in our world. Stay-at-home orders all across the United States, and in majority of the United States. I think I read something like 80% of the people are in stay-at-home orders. So obviously, that affects a lot of businesses and what they're seeing and what they're doing. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, and how to set the right mindset and then possibly shift your agency to maybe be more successful, or to at least think things a little bit differently. So first of all, I'm just going to kind of open the floor, and we'll talk with, obviously Miss Brittany here, who's a lot of operations, talks to a lot of agencies, seeing kind of what's out there. What have you seen as the landscape in this world that we live in right now, or the mindset, I should say?
Um, I mean, it's interesting. So it's going to be different from agency owner from one to the next. Obviously, it's going to depend on how it's impacting their current business. It also depends on how big their team is. So I've noticed that for people who have larger teams, there's more of a panic that they have to pay for all their team's salary and everything while all of this is going on. For little agency owners, where it might be them and maybe one other person, they're definitely focused more on growing the business right now and not as panicked about how they're going to pay their bills. So I have seen that be kind of a big factor, whether or not the team size will impact them in this moment. But I think the really important thing here is that regardless, you have to set yourself up for just what's to come. And Michael, you did a really good job, and maybe you could kind of explain how you set us up for that, because it completely changed my own mindset. Whereas like with you and I think yours is more about the business and the finances. Mine is the team, right? Morale and making sure that we retain our team. And so between the two of us, I think we share a lot of emotions that maybe one agency owner on their own might
Sure.
have. And so, I mean, you could go into that. I think that changed mine though as well, which was really cool.
Yeah, I think one of the things we did, and I actually got this from another business owner, was set it the mindset. You got to set your mindset to not live in the news world or have all these outside influences, the doom and gloom. Right, life still goes on. We still got to move forward with our agencies. I think the biggest thing I was able to do is to understand that we are going to see some dip in revenue. Right, so every time we get those cancellations or pauses, which nobody wants to get those emails. Every time was hitting me right in the heart. Every time, just stabbing me like, oh no, right? Like nobody wants those. And when you get those, that emotional roller coaster it takes you on. And instead of worrying about when the next cancellation was happening, I laid out our month-to-month revenue goals and have now adjusted those for COVID-19, right? And have said, hey, we're going to have X percent of decrease this month, and then growth next month, or then a decrease again, and then a little bit of growth over the next couple months, right? As people kind of get back to this new norm. And what that does is when a cancel comes in, you're like, oh, that's inside this percentage that I've laid out, whether that be 5, 10, 15, 20, 40, 50%, whatever your agency is experiencing, right? Or whatever you think it may be, right? So you lay that out and you're like, oh, okay, now that's part of that. Great, move on. And you don't spend so much mental thought on that space. And I think that's what's really it's been healthy for both of us, right? Because I'm not stressing you out about cancels, or you're not worried about us getting rid of the team or whatever, right? Like we're the way we're set up, we have a number of employees and a number of contractors, right? So the contractors, obviously hours get reduced or moved around based on like what we're doing. We're actually investing more now into marketing, and I'll let you talk a little bit about that in a second. But it's like just shifting hours around to make it, make sense for our agency and where we're at. And obviously, this is a time you can look at expenses. It's almost like you dive more into your expenses at this time. It's like you should be doing that when your things are great too. You see all the things you're spending money on that you probably don't need to be, right? When they talk to Profit First, the book, they mentioned this, that you need to always be constantly looking at your expenses, so you're not buying those frivolous tools or other things that you think may be fun to have as part of your agency that you really don't need to have, right? Um, so let's talk a little bit about. So that's kind of the mindset shift that I've made, and I think it's made us. Well, I know it's made Brittany a lot. It's made my two wives a lot happier, my work wife and my home wife, right? Not bringing so much emotionally charged, every night of frustrations of cancellations or pauses, and then understanding, hey, this is the reality we live in, and move forward from there.
Right.
So,
And I think
right,
to your point, like with our team, it's been important to be really transparent. So the blend of employees and contractors, I think, has really helped us in a lot of ways. We're not having to pay for five, in one little pod or one department. We're not paying for a bunch of salaries. It's a nice blend. One thing I did just on the operations side was, as soon as this hit and we started to see it impact other businesses at even a minimal level, I went to our contractors and I said, hey, if we do experience any cancellations, I just want you to be prepared that you will likely see a reduction in hours. And I had that conversation with them really early on because, I know that they're the ones that are going to be impacted. So I do think it's important to just communicate, like, even, outside of us in a leadership team, it's important to communicate these things down to your team as well and just get them prepared.
yeah,
And I think we did a good job of that because we just experienced our first reallocation of accounts last week, and everyone was on the same page. Everyone was happy to help. We had contractors who were like, okay, cool, I'm going to pass these to the next person. They all understand that it's to retain our whole team. Everybody wants to be here, and we'll get back to where we were, where we have people who are full time and things like that. But communication's huge, and just setting the landscape for these changes.
yeah, and then I think that is, I think being open and honest communication, like that's what I've really tried to do. Like we're not going anywhere. Like we have some good cash reserves that the way we run our business, and but that doesn't mean that we're gonna continue to spend a number of hours on things that don't need a number of hours on if clients cancel or pause, right? So I think with that, then the next kind of thing is like the marketing initiatives that we've done. We have pivoted a little bit to. I'll let you kind of speak a little bit to kind of the differences of how we're thinking about marketing now and what we're doing. So
Right. So we're a split. We're a white label agency. We have direct clients. It's like 60/40. Most of our marketing has gone towards white labeling because for Michael and I, that's what we want to do, right? We're not salespeople. Um, but in this moment, I think people are a little bit more hesitant to outsource because they're going to lose a little bit more of their margins usually. It's obviously giving them time freedom and peace of mind and a lot of things that emotionally make a lot of sense. Right now, it might not make as much sense for their bottom line. So, what we decided to do was kind of go, okay, well, we still have direct clients. Those are still people we serve. And so we wanted to shift our marketing towards that, but also look at the essential businesses. I mean, you have to be smart right now and go, okay, who's actually willing to spend money on marketing? It's great that we can educate our partners and our clients on why really everybody should be marketing right now. But I don't think people are in that state of mind, not everybody. So we certainly, being an agency that serves all verticals, we can see which ones are doing really well right now. And I think for us, it was a smart move to go, okay, let's start gearing some of our own marketing towards them, just direct to consumer, and hopefully get that side of our business built up a little bit more to help with the lack we're seeing right now with white labeling, where a lot of people are actually pulling back from their vendors.
hmm and but I think even on the flip side, there's been a couple instances where we have been engaged by bigger agencies almost now, right? Like because they're trying to figure out a way to, because maybe they're seeing that their margins, like having overhead of employees and having, to pay those employment taxes and all of those things come into play. And now they're like, wow, maybe it's not worth having, right?
A bunch
Uh,
of employees.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, we're definitely a better, I think, hourly fit, and we're flexible, which is nice. It's
yeah.
not the same flat salary for your employee. So it's true. I think bigger agencies would look at this as a good viable option for a way to reduce their overhead, um, and make sure that they don't have a bunch of people on staff who actually aren't able to work
Exactly.
or aren't working because they don't have the right accounts.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good wrap on this episode of whatever we're going to call this show. I think just having your mindset right during this time is very difficult, whether that's in business or at home, right? We're all living in a little bit of uncertainty of when these lockdowns will, or these stay-at-homes will end. And, I just, hopefully everyone, is doing well. And I think once you get your mindset right and you can set your business expecting some of these ups and downs and not, obviously we're projecting growth to be whatever we think it's going to be. It may or may not be, but at least it kind of allows you to control what you can control. My father-in-law always says, your sphere of influence is this wide, right? Is as wide as your arms. You don't get to control anything else other than that. And I think we all think we do, right? And especially for somebody like me that probably has some control issues anyways. That's a good reminder in life that that's true. That we only can really control as long as you have a food, shelter, and love in your life. That's all that really matters, right? So I'm Michael. She's Brittany, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.